Welcome. You're watching the Moody Lawyer. Justice served with experience and integrity.
Hello and welcome back to the Moody Lawyer with attorney Josh Moody. With a rich background in law enforcement and a comprehensive legal career spanning criminal justice, personal injury, and civil matters, Josh offers a unique perspective on navigating the complexities of the legal system. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're talking to insurance adjusters. Josh is going to explain what to say, what to avoid, and when to hang up. Josh, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So when someone's in a car accident, how quickly do insurance adjusters usually reach out? And what are they hoping to get from that initial call?
Well, so let's not forget there's two insurance adjusters. There's going to be one on your side and one on the other. But both, pretty much what they're both looking for is find out what happened and get your initial statement as to the cause of the accident. Because, of course, in the insurance company, it's all about fault and negligence. And even if they can put a certain percentage of fault onto you, they're going to use that initial statement. Because remember, anything you say, they typically record. They'll tell you they're recording it, and they will use it to they're looking for any change in statement, even 6 months, 1 year down the road, and they'll always bring back, well, when you initially told us there was a problem, or when you told us about this accident. They'll say, well, you didn't bring this up, or you didn't say that, or you changed your story. So that's usually what they're looking for, is to find out what's going on, find out what happened, and if they have to use that as evidence against you later on down the road. Now, of course, your insurance company is going to be trying to mitigate it for you as well, and trying to use those statements to assist you with your case. So there's going to be two adjusters, and they're both going to be calling.
Obviously, most people like to try to be cooperative in these situations. They don't want to be combative or anything like that. What are some of the common phrases or explanations that might sound innocent but end up being used against them later?
There's a couple. One, I never saw him coming. And it may seem innocent, and you may have never seen him coming because he was driving too fast, or because he was on a blind curve, or because he was doing something breaking the law. But how are they going to twist that? How are they going to make that statement against you later on down the road? So it might seem like an innocent statement, but without context, those kind of statements can hurt you.
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't have thought of that. That seems innocent, like you said.
I'm fine. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
They'll call you right away. Oh, I'm fine. And then a day, and we've talked about in our previous episodes in the archives, you can go back and look at. But what typically happens on a lot of these cases is a day or 2, 3 goes by, and that's when you start, you start to feel the pain, the muscle soreness, and then sometimes it could be even weeks before, if there's some sort of tear. Some small tear, big tear. So those are, I'm fine. Those are usually the things that hurt. That's very typical. Or nobody's hurt, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the type of things that they're looking for you to hear you say. Which is why, like we talked about in the past as well, it's better to get a lawyer, because your lawyer can then whatever your lawyer says isn't evidence. So your attorney, if your attorney says certain things, that cannot be used against you. But if you tell it to them directly, those are some of the issues that pop up. Some other small, typical things that people say, there's not much damage, or everything's okay. And again, I think we've talked about it in the past, because most people, like you said, are cooperative, or they want to cooperate, and they just assume that the other party's just going to pay for all the damages. And that's just not what happens. Mm-hmm. They don't pay for 100% if they don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot from talking to you about, I've never had those calls, but if I did, I would certainly know what to do now for sure.
Yeah. Those are pretty common statements. Mm-hmm. I'm fine, or something along the line. I'm okay. Or, I never saw him, or, just things along those lines.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that things might be recorded. What should listeners understand about why they ask for that, and whether it's ever a good idea to give a recorded statement.
Yeah, so in California, they have to tell you that and they do, and they'll say, just so you know, for quality assurances or to protect you and to protect me, this conversation is being recorded, and you have to consent to that. And then they give a statement, and yeah, that can be used again. Then if it does get into some sort of litigation, that recorded statement can then be offered into evidence to impeach you or as evidence against you later on down the road.
Mm-hmm. Are there any particular kinds of questions that adjusters might ask that might catch people off guard or push them into saying more than they really should or meant to?
Well, like it's more along the line. Their questions are typically broad questions as to what happened, but people typically will offer information because, like you said earlier, they want to seem cooperative. They don't want to seem combative. And the other thing is too, it's an adrenaline rush after getting into a car accident. People don't remember saying a lot of those things. They don't remember saying, "Oh, I'm fine." Well, what they mean is I'm not dead, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically what people are referring to is, yeah, I'm fine in the sense that, I don't need to go to the hospital right now, or, everybody's alive. So that's typically what people mean when they're saying those things. But remember that the opposing party the other insurance adjuster is not required to, nor do they try to clean up what you're saying. So if you do say something like "I'm fine" or "nobody's hurt," they don't have to go into, well, what do you mean by "I'm fine"? Are you, please expand upon it. They don't ask that at the initial conversation, and they're not required to. So that's those are the type of the things. But a lot of the questions that almost all adjusters across all insurance companies, they follow kind of a script of what happened, big picture, what happened, where, who, what, when, where, why, and how, and to kind of figure out what's going on.
If someone's still waiting on a diagnosis or going to physical therapy, figuring out the full extent of their injuries, how should they handle calls during that period?
Well, hopefully by that point you already have an attorney, because if you're already going to physical therapy and you're handling the case on your own, now you're handling your own case. And the longer you handle your own case, the less likely, I don't want to say that I don't take cases like that, but the longer you handle your own case, the less likely I am going to take it, because there are mistakes that are typically made along the way while you're treating, that you don't maximize those documents and the documentation, or those injuries or those statements. And there are little things that the average person doesn't even know. We've talked about that in the past as well. But dealing with the opposing insurance adjuster, these are professionals. They're professionals that they get paid to handle people. They get paid to handle people. They get paid to find out what happened, and they get paid to get out of a case as low as possible. That is their job. And they do this, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year. And you're one car accident that most people are in one accident in their life if they're lucky. And, to outmaneuver somebody like that is just, the average person doesn't. And it comes up to the value of the case. Sometimes a person doesn't want an attorney and they handle the case themselves, but they're not looking to get the most amount of money. But if you are looking to get the maximum compensation, you should have an advocate on your side, again, for all those legal reasons. An attorney can't, his statements can't be used against you. Proper treatment, management, understanding where you're going, and understanding the value of your case.
This is another thing we've talked about before, but just in case, because it applies to the context of what we're talking about, and in case someone hasn't heard it before. Obviously, we've talked about how insurance companies will try to settle quickly. Can you talk about the dangers of settling too early, if you accepting that quick offer?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And again, I think we've told this story before, but yeah, I mean, they'll once the case is settled, you're done.
Right.
And sometimes, and they will offer, whatever they have to, or whatever the minimum amount to get the case to go away. And if you accept that, well, then your case is done. So if you do a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road, find out there's a tear or some sort of more visible injury than a soft tissue case, then you can't go back and sue. Years ago, we had this case, and the person came in, and like I said, it had happened several months earlier, which I usually don't take, but there was a pretty decent injury on it, and I believe it was a shoulder. I believe it was a shoulder tear, some sort of tear, and so we take the case, we send out our letters, and the insurance company calls back and says, "Hey, this person already settled with us for like $1,500," and we're like, "What?" So we look at and we call the client and, "Hey, what?" They said you've already said. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, the client didn't tell us that at the time, and there's just nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do, and of course, it's a little. I wasn't too happy because they didn't disclose that they had already, already settled the case, but or had signed the paperwork, and they do. They go. I mean, it's in big bold letters. The signature was there. Did you sign this? Yeah. There's not much you can do at that point. That's happened quite a few times, or even where we've taken cases and they haven't told us that they have another lawyer or another lawyer dropped them or whatever. But those kind of things happen and have happened. But yeah, once you take the settlement, you're done from even if there's a future injury that you don't know about, an undiagnosed injury, you can't go back and sue them. Which again is why you want to proper treatment, proper medical, even if you go and get checked out and the results are negative, at least
Mm-hmm. I'll bet there's a new question on your intake. Have you accepted a settlement already?
No, and no, we don't ask that at the intake, but it actually just came up a few weeks ago. Somebody came in and turns out, he was represented by another attorney, a Los Angeles attorney who ended up dropping the case. And when we found out, like, why didn't you tell us that? Which, I mean, that can cause that's a whole nother subject too, but that comes down to just open and honest. You have to be open and honest. It's a two-way street. I got to be open and honest with you, but you got to be open and honest with me too. And then you find out that the reason the attorney dropped the case was because there was no insurance on it. And nobody had any insurance, and that's why it was dropped. So of course that he leaves all that out as well. But it still happens I'd say it probably happens maybe once a year, maybe twice a year.
Mm-hmm. So okay. So, you're talking about those situations. How does bringing in a lawyer early help people to navigate this stuff so they don't get trapped into accepting these offers?
Well, because my number one thing is you just can't. It's malpractice if I were to accept a settlement without knowing all the records and all your facts, without getting all your medical records and knowing that every doctor who's seen you has said, okay, there's nothing more I can do, or there's nowhere else we can send you, or we've reached maximum medical improvement. At that point, and we have all your billing, and we're confident, your doctor says we have all your billing, your medical insurance says we have the billing. Once we have everything, and now I'm comfortable moving forward, that's important. But a lot of times people don't think about that, and they don't have all their billing, or they don't have all their medical records, or they want to just keep, they'll keep going. It happens a lot too. People call after almost 2 years and they'll say, I've been going to physical therapy or doing this for 2 years, and now the statute of limitations is coming up. And who wants to take on that case where statute of limitations is within a few days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why getting an attorney as quick as possible is the best way to go and best way to handle case.
When it comes to communication, once you've hired an attorney and an adjuster calls you, you tell them you've got an attorney. Can they keep asking questions at that point, or do they by law have to stop asking questions?
Yeah, great question. No, that's one of the first things, that they have to stop contacting you. They cannot call you. It's attorney-client privilege, and they have to go through us. Now with your insurance adjuster, you can talk to your insurance adjuster, especially as it relates to bills or to your getting your car fixed, or even just if there is maybe some type of contributory negligence. But we usually will work with them to make sure it whatever the client wants, we'll do to make it work easier and smoother for them. But absolutely not. Yeah, they our letters we have in big bold letters, cease all communications with our client. And that's why, because we don't want them making statements that I'm not aware of or that our office isn't aware of. And that way they can't be used against you in the future. And like I said, anything I say or my staff says is not evidence. We're just representing someone. So those are some nuances that people are not aware of. And then it does depend on the insurance company, and it does depend on maybe the individual adjuster. If it's someone we've known who we've had problems with in the past, we may, even if it is your insurance company, we still would recommend, hey, don't go through us instead, because they've lowballed our clients on property damage or uninsured motorist or something like that. So the rule, we typically, you typically can still talk to your own insurance company because you still pay for their services. So why not? But yeah, in terms of the other attorney, anybody on the other side, the other attorney, the other party, it all goes through us.
Okay. Do adjusters ever try to, I'm sure they have various tactics depending on who they are. Do they ever get aggressive?
Oh yeah, some do. The unprofessional ones do. Most of them are professional, and they know it is a business, it is a job. But I've had a couple. It's been a while, but I've had a couple where they seem to take it really personal, and they get angry. It's just, and sometimes we'll drag out a case, or we'll wait a little bit longer, or we'll initiate a case for litigation or take it to the next level of litigation. And a lot of times it goes to a new adjuster. And a lot of times, I probably have 2 or 3 cases here just in the last couple of months where it got to a new adjuster, and now we got some movement on the case just by getting a new adjuster and taking a new look at it, fresh set of eyes. That's pretty common. But yeah, especially early in the case, sometimes the adjuster you start with most of the time is not this adjuster you end with.
Okay. And I assume most of them probably take more of the nice guy approach than
I'd say 85, 90% of them are pretty easy going, or at least pretty easy to deal with and talk with. And at the very least professional, even if we do disagree on value of a case. A lot of times they're professional, but every once in a while. And, the other thing is I do keep a list of adjusters. I don't know if we put that out there, but I keep a list of adjusters who are pretty rude and unprofessional. And I've very rarely come across the same one twice. So it tells me that they either don't stick around very long or they assign them to other cases.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Moody Lawyer. If you've been in an accident and you're getting calls from insurance adjusters, Josh and his team can help you understand your options and protect your claim from the very beginning. Visit moodylawyer.com. And if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share it with people so that more people across the high desert can get the guidance they need. Josh, it's always great chatting with you. Thanks so much.
Good seeing you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.